Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really critical.
Absolutely. We're looking at the 2023 U.S. Surgeon General's Advisory on Social Media and Youth Mental Health.
Yeah, and this document, it feels different. It's framing this as an urgent public health issue.
It really is. This isn't just about kids being online anymore. The advisory calls it a systemic crisis, needing, immediate attention and real action.
So our mission for this deep dive is pretty straightforward. Unpack the core findings. What are the benefits? What are the serious risks?
And crucially, what do we do now? What steps need to happen? From policymakers right down to families.
Okay, let's start with just how widespread this is. The numbers are kind of mind-blowing.
They are. We're talking up to 95% of teens ages 13 to 17 using social media. It's basically universal in that age group.
95%. And it's not just occasional use, right? A lot of them are on there constantly.
That's the kicker. More than a third say they use it almost constantly. Think about that.
And it starts even younger, which is concerning. The advisory notes nearly 40% of kids aged 8 to 12 are using it.
Even though the platforms usually say you need to be 13. So you have these younger kids in spaces not built for them with basically zero safety guarantees.
Which leads right to the core tension, doesn't it?
Exactly. The advisory concludes that, yes, social media can have benefits for some young people.
Okay, some connection, community.
Right. But, and this is the huge but, there's a profound risk of harm, and right now we just don't have enough solid evidence to say it's sufficiently safe.
So we're in this situation where almost everyone is using it, but we don't actually know if it's safe. That's unsettling.
Deeply unsettling. We're operating in the dark on a massive scale.
Okay, let's start there. Why are young people, especially adolescents, so uniquely vulnerable to whatever social media is throwing at them?
It really comes down to biology.
Yeah.
That period, adolescence, roughly ages 10 to 19, it's a time of huge brain development, just massive restructuring happening.
Right. It's not just hormones. The brain itself is physically changing.
Precisely. It's a really sensitive period. Identity is forming, risk-taking behavior tends to peak, and kids are naturally more prone to mental health ups and downs anyway.
And the research in the advisory suggests that heavy social media use isn't just happening during this period, it might actually be interacting with it, affecting brain development itself.
That's the really serious concern being raised. The research points to potential changes in key brain areas.
Which areas are we talking about?
Primarily two: the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, amygdala. That's the emotion center. Fear, reward, that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's like the brain's alarm system, learning what's good, what's bad, emotionally speaking, and the prefrontal cortex. That's the control center.
Impulse control, decision-making, planning.
Right. The brain's CEO, basically. And it's one of the last areas to fully mature.
Yeah.
So imagine bombarding a developing brain with constant social feedback, likes, follows, comments. FOMO precedes snubs.
While the FEEO part, the prefrontal cortex, is still under construction.
You got it. So the hypothesis is that this could be making the amygdala more sensitive to social rewards and punishments, while the part that helps regulate responses, the prefrontal cortex, can't keep up.
So instead of learning internal regulation, the brain gets wired for external validation from likes and comments.
That's the worry. This heightened sensitivity seems to show up in some data. For instance, studies found social media use predicted a later drop in life satisfaction.
Interesting. Was it the same for everyone?
No, the timing mattered. For girls, the risk window seemed to be ages 11 to 13. For boys, it was a bit later, around 14 to 15. It links directly to these specific developmental stages.
Okay, so there are clear developmental risks. But the advisory isn't all doom and gloom, right? It acknowledges some real upsides.
Absolutely, and it's important we cover those. The biggest benefit is connection, finding community.
Like finding your tribe online when maybe you can't find it easily offline?
Exactly. It's a space for self-expression, exploring your identity, connecting with people who share specific interests or maybe identities that aren't common where they live.
The advisory specifically mentions buffering effects for marginalized youth. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's crucial. For young people who might face marginalization offline, maybe due to race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, online support can be incredibly important.
A lifeline, almost.
It can be. It provides peer connections and validation that might be missing otherwise. And the data backs this up.
What did the teens themselves report?
Well, a big majority, 80%, said social media helps them feel more connected to their friends. 2/3 felt like they have people who support them there.
That's significant.
And over half, 58%, felt more accepted. Plus, specifically for girls of color, 7 out of 10 reported finding positive, identity-affirming content related to race online.
So it's definitely not a simple picture. These platforms offer real value, real connection for many kids.
They do. It's just that this value often comes packaged with significant risks.
Okay, let's pivot to those risks. The advisory talks about a kind of threshold for harm based on time spent. What's the number?
The data points pretty clearly to more than 3 hours per day. Adolescents spending that much time face double the risk of poor mental health outcomes.
Double the risk of things like depression and anxiety symptoms.
Yes, that's what the research indicated.
3 hours. That feels like a lot of time each day. What's the average use look like now for, say, middle schoolers or early high schoolers?
Well, that's the alarming part. 8th and 10th graders are now averaging 3.5 hours a day.
So the average kid in that age group is already past the risk threshold identified in the research.
On average, yes.
Yeah.
Collectively, they're in that higher risk zone routinely.
And it's not just correlation, is it? There's experimental evidence suggesting a causal link.
There is. On the harm side, a natural experiment tracked what happened when a major social media platform rolled out across different U.S. colleges at different times.
What did they find?
They found its arrival was associated with roughly a 9% increase in depression and a 12% increase in anxiety among students.
Wow. But conversely, there's also evidence that reducing use helps.
Yes, and this is really hopeful. A randomized controlled trial had young adults limit their social media to just 30 minutes a day for 3 weeks.
Okay, what happened?
Significant improvements in depression severity. For those who started with higher levels of depression, the improvement was over 35%, just from cutting back time.
That's powerful. It suggests limiting use could be a really effective intervention. So why is excessive use potentially so damaging? Let's get into the mechanisms. Risk area 1, excessive and problematic use.
And a key point here is that problematic use isn't framed as a failure of willpower by the team.
It's about the platform design.
Exactly. The advisory points directly at the design features: push notifications, infinite scroll, the like counts, algorithms designed to keep you hooked. They're engineered for maximum engagement.
Engineering that targets those developing brains we talked about earlier.
Precisely. Some researchers argue these features overstimulate the brain's reward pathways, similar to how addiction works. It's not surprising over half of teens say it would be hard to give up social media.
And the immediate physical costs are significant too, like sleep.
Huge impact on sleep. Excessive use is consistently linked to poor sleep quality and duration. Nearly 1 in 3 adolescents say they're using screens until midnight or later on weeknights.
Which obviously affects everything the next day: school, mood.
Everything. And it likely contributes to attention problems too. Problematic use is linked to attention issues, even a slightly higher chance of developing ADHD symptoms over time.
And what about FOMO? Fear of missing out.
That's a big one too. FOMO is consistently linked with depression, anxiety, and neuroticism. It's part of that constant comparison-driven anxiety loop.
Okay, let's shift to risk area 2. Harmful content. This isn't just about time, but what kids are actually seeing.
Right, and the potential for exposure to extreme, inappropriate, and genuinely harmful content is vast. The advisory doesn't mince words here.
Like what kind of examples?
Things like live-streamed self-harm acts, content promoting eating disorders or violence, dangerous challenges that have tragically led to kids dying. The algorithms optimizing for engagement can easily surface this stuff.
Because engagement doesn't necessarily equal safety or appropriateness.
Not at all. And then there's the more chronic harm from things like social comparison, especially around body image.
Particularly for girls.
The link is very strong there, yes. Multiple studies confirm it, and when you ask teens directly, almost half, 46%, say social media makes them feel worse about their bodies.
A comparison machine, as you said. And finally, there's direct harm from others, harassment, predators.
Yes. Exposure to hate-based content is common. 2/3 see it often, or sometimes. Cyberbullying is strongly linked to depression. And then there are predators.
Like sextortion attempts.
Yes, and even worse, exposure to people trying to sell dangerous drugs like illicit fentanyl directly to young users through these platforms. The lack of robust filtering and moderation creates real danger.
Okay, so we've laid out the scale of use, the brain vulnerability, the specific harms like sleep loss, body image issues, dangerous content. It's a lot. Given all this, the advisory calls for a big shift, right? The safety-first principle.
That's the core recommendation, really. Think about how we regulate toys or medicine or even cars.
There's an assumption of safety required before it hits the market.
Exactly. Manufacturers have to demonstrate a basic level of safety first. Protections are built in until safety is proven. The Surgeon General is saying we need to apply that same logic to social media platforms used by kids.
So flip the burden of proof. Instead of parents and kids having to navigate dangers, the companies have to prove their product is reasonably safe first.
That's the goal. Put the onus on the tech companies and policymakers to build safety into the system.
So what does that look like practically? What should policymakers do?
They need to step up and create age-appropriate health and safety standards. This means things like limits on features designed purely to maximize time spent, like infinite scroll or autoplay.
And actually enforcing age limits, making sure an 8-year-old can't just sign up.
Rigorously enforcing age minimums, yes.
Yeah.
And creating stronger protections against exposure to harmful content like violence or self-harm promotion.
And for the tech companies themselves, what's the ask?
It's fundamental. They need to prioritize user health and safety right from the design phase. It has to be a core value, not an afterthought.
Meaning default settings should be the safest possible for minors.
Absolutely. Highest privacy and safety settings should be the default, not something parents have to hunt for. Enforce their own age rules. And critically, this is huge, they must share their internal data.
The transparency issue again.
It's central. Independent researchers need access to detailed, timely data on how these platforms are impacting users to understand what's really going on and what works. That access is largely blocked right now.
Okay, so that's the systemic level. What about parents and caregivers listening right now? What can they do today?
Well, first, modeling responsible use themselves is key. Kids notice. Then, the advisory strongly suggests creating a family media plan.
Like sitting down and agreeing on rules and boundaries together.
Yes, talk about expectations. And create tech-free zones and times. This is really concrete.
What specific zones or times?
Definitely restrict device use for at least an hour before bedtime. Protect that sleep. And keep meal times tech-free. Use that time for actual face-to-face connection.
Simple but potentially powerful changes. And what about the kids and teens themselves? What's the message directly to them?
It's about building resilience and making conscious choices. Learn digital and media literacy, how to spot misinformation, how algorithms work, how design tries to hook you.
Be an informed user, not just a passive one.
Right. Create your own boundaries, like that hour tech-free before bed. Be super careful about sharing personal info. It can be permanent and public.
And critically.
If you see something harmful, or if you or a friend are being harmed or struggling, reach out. Talk to a trusted adult. Use resources like the 988 Crisis Lifeline. Don't suffer alone.
We keep coming back to this data issue. The advisory is really blunt. The lack of transparency from tech companies is a massive roadblock.
It's the major barrier to truly understanding the full picture. Researchers know harm is happening, but without access to the internal platform data, the algorithms, the detailed usage patterns, it's hard to pinpoint exactly how and why for different kids.
They're trying to fix a black box from the outside.
Pretty much. We need that internal data to answer urgent questions.
Like what? What are the key things we still don't know?
Well, for starters, how exactly do digital social interactions differ from in-person ones in their impact on mental health? We need more granular detail.
And the specific pathways to harm? Is it mostly the social comparison aspect crushing self-esteem?
Or is it more about the addictive design loops messing with brain chemistry, like dopamine? Or the sleep disruption? Or exposure to specific types of toxic content? We need to disentangle these pathways.
You can move beyond just saying social media is the problem and identify which specific features or content types or usage patterns are most harmful and for whom.
Precisely. What frequency, what intensity, what content causes the most harm, and which kids are most vulnerable to which specific risks. That level of understanding is crucial for effective solutions, and right now, it's largely locked away by the companies. #TagTagOutro.
So wrapping this up, the core message from the Surgeon General seems incredibly stark. Social media use among young people is almost universal.
Yet, its safety is fundamentally unproven. We've placed an entire generation into what the advisory basically calls a massive, uncontrolled experiment.
And the initial results, as we've discussed, are deeply concerning.
Right, and the takeaway is that the burden can't just be on kids and parents to figure this out. Parenting is harder now because of this tech, parents say. We need that systemic, safety-first approach.
Companies and government have to step up.
Absolutely. It requires real change from the platforms and meaningful regulation.
Which leads us to our final thought for you, the listener. Think about this. We have systems like the FDA for medications. They have to prove a drug is reasonably safe before it can be marketed, especially to vulnerable groups.
A pre-market safety requirement.
Exactly. So, given everything we've heard today, the documented risks, the potential changes to the developing brain should social media platforms aimed at adolescents face a similar hurdle? Should they have to demonstrate minimum safety standards before they roll out features designed to maximize engagement?
What would a truly safety-first social media platform even look like if its main goal was protecting young users, not capturing their attention?
That's the big question to ponder. What would that world look like?
A critical question for all of us.
We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.